several occasions here, and let's make it tough on the Steelers' offensive line. Here's Aller again under pressure, and again he goes down. Once again, that's Nate Lynn. That's his second one of the night. Cook looking deep, has his man there. It's Quincy Skinner, and they ruled out a touchdown. Pressure from the backside, and once again it's going to be a sack by the Jets. 1st and 10, ball at the 13-yard line. Smith rolling, throwing, open man right there. It's going to be Jelani Woods.
From the buck 42, they need 6 on 3rd down. He's well protected. The baseline couldn't find anybody, and he is sacked.
One after a 3 and out. It's Howard. In pressured, and he's gotten there and down. And that's David Bailey.
Zappi with time and open inside the 30. In field goal range, Amar Cooper.
In there, 2 big guys to go along with the other guys. They have a tight end. It's Howard, and he throws that right into traffic there, and it's Andre Cisco. With Drew Aller in the shotgun. Pressure again from the outside, and it's going to be too much. Chase Wilson got there, but 7 for 7 on that drive. There's a little screen, and that's a good play right there. That's going to go for a lot of yardage there. Trying to get into the end zone is
for Tampa Bay. And a fresh set of downs, and Hall gets loose, stumbles on that turf.
He's right now, I think, one of the few that could be a starter in this defense.
And Braylon Allen is in the end zone.
Deep drop, throws down the field. As a receiver, did he keep his feet in bounds? Junior back in at pressure again. Klubnik rolling here, and he can do this. 3rd and 2, he's going to get that and plenty more. They made the big interception by Andre Cisco. 3rd and 5, a big one now for Howard. Puts that one intended for Roman Wilson. Flags fly, and that is intercepted by Samuel Womack. Several occasions here, and let's make it tough on the Steelers' offensive line. Here's Aller again under pressure, and again he goes down. Once again, that's Nate Lynn. That's his second one of the night. Cook looking deep, has his man.
It's that time of year, folks. It is the impossible guessing game of who the Jets will keep, who they will cut. As the final preseason game approaches, we're going to go through our projected 53-man roster here and now. I'm Glenn Naughton with Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of the most active Jets message board on the web. And this time of year, with rosters getting ready to cut down, gets pretty active. Folks want to bang the table for the players they want to see staying behind and the guys that they feel absolutely have to go. And what's this going to teach us? What are we going to learn from this 53-man roster? To me, the big thing is going to be we're going to find out if Darren Mougey wants to put the best possible team out there or if he kind of wants to make a point, self-preserve a little bit, keep some guys around who probably shouldn't be around. And this isn't exclusive to Mougey. Every GM does it. There's this balancing act like, oh, well, I have these 2 guys and it's kind of a dead heat. What's going to be the deciding factor? Well, I drafted that guy last year, and it's going to look pretty bad if he goes. I'm going to keep him. Might be some of that going on. We're going to talk about it. And as I say every year, folks, when we do these, I don't get mortally offended when people are like, oh, my God, dude, you're so stupid. Why'd you keep this guy and not that guy? I do it to myself. I've never done a 53-man projection that I don't look at 10 minutes later and go, maybe I shouldn't have kept that guy. This guy, I like him a little, but yet, admittedly, it's sometimes I think I overthink it. And there's going to be one position here we'll talk about where that was the one. When I finished it and I published it to the front page of Jet Nation yesterday, I looked at it just a few minutes later and went, they're not going to do that. That's me applying my thinking, hoping they're thinking that way or thinking they're thinking that way. And we'll get into that in a little bit. So let's dive right into it, okay? 53-man roster projection. And as I said, throw your darts, bring your worst. Tell me how terrible it is. I disagree with me. Every time I do one of these, I look at over a minute later and go, I don't know. So right off the top, quarterback, of course, Geno Smith and Cade Klubnik. I said many times, that the Jets, if Klubnik showed anything, there was no need to carry a third quarterback. Practice squad, sure. You want to put Zappy or Cook on the practice squad, go right ahead. Mike, good to see you. Glad you called the start. This is a weird time for me. I don't normally kick them off this early, but a lot going on today. So again, Geno Smith, Cade Klubnik, they're your two quarterbacks. You want to keep Zappy or Cook on the practice squad. I'm fine with that. I think it's good to have a third quarterback in the building who knows the system, who can go out there and maybe operate it at a functional level, possibly. Again, when you're down to your third quarterback, your season's over anyway. But you don't want to go out there and just have a guy have a Justin Fields-like performance against Denver where you come out and throw for like negative yards. Stuff like that is just embarrassing. You want someone who can at least operate the offense. Brady Cook, as bad as he was last year, you look at his first game, he was functional. And maybe with a summer off or, an off-season off and a training camp, maybe he's brought his game up a little bit to where if he's your number 3 practice squad guy who's got to come in and start a game in week 15, 16, maybe he's functional. You're not making playoff runs with third and fourth quarterbacks. So Klubnik did do what he had to do this preseason. He was poised. He was confident. Was he a little bit inaccurate? Yes, at times. But again, these are really small sample sizes. This is, you look at the first game when he looked poised and he looked settled, but then he had a couple of wild throws. And you think, well, this was Aaron Glenn pulling a Bill Parcells, which we'd said at the time, letting a rookie quarterback know an hour before kickoff, you're the guy tonight. There's a little added pressure. What do you got? And he was all right. He was okay. He didn't look lost. He didn't look overwhelmed. So Klubnik wins the number 2 job, meaning you don't have to waste a third roster spot on a quarterback. Put one on the practice squad. Running back, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, Kenny Nwangwu. So now this is where I'm keeping Nwangwu because that's predictive. I think that's what the Jets are going to do. I wouldn't do that. I think Nwangwu is a guy, he's missed a lot of time in terms of injuries over the years. I think that I would rather go with Chip Trayanum and let one of the other receivers work. I think there are other guys on the roster who could be return guys. Will they be at the level of Nwangwu? Probably not. But I don't think he's the difference between, 10-7 and 6-11. I don't think he's a guy who swings, the balance of the roster all that much. But I think that's what the Jets will do. Would I? Probably not. Will they? I imagine so. I think they'll go with, play it safe and go with the guy who they know can return kicks. So you got Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, and Nwangwu. Your running backs. Breece, of course, nursing the groin. Isaiah Davis a little bit dinged up with the knee, I believe. It's been a few weeks with that. I think it was the knee. So you got Braylon at the moment. You'll probably see a ton of Chip Trayanum this week, and I hope he balls out. Given Nwangwu those 7 carries last week, I said it after the game, was really just silly. I feel like those carries could have gone to a younger back who with a chance to become even a backup. Wide receiver. So here's where it got tough. At least for me. Garrett Wilson, I'm keeping 6. Garrett Wilson, A.D. Mitchell, Omar Cooper, Isaiah Williams. Those were all locks. Tim Patrick feels like a lock, but you do kind of look at it and go, is he really that good? I think they're keeping him. I don't know that I would. And then Arian Smith. Arian Smith is the draft pick who the Jets have to look at. Darren Mougey's got to look at. Aaron Glenn's got to look at. And it becomes a thing about ego and pride because the whole world, even the biggest Darren Mougey supporters on the planet, when that pick came in, they were like, what? This guy dropped 10 balls last year. Elite speed, absolutely. Round 6 or 7, fine. UDFA, maybe, yeah. 4th round? And the Jets were a little bit defensive. If you think back to last year, Arian Smith actually had a good practice where he had a bunch of catches. And Aaron Glenn, after practice, was like, proud papa. All you guys said he couldn't catch, huh? I remember that. I remember when we drafted him and you guys said he can't catch the ball. Instead, he hasn't caught the ball. But are you, Darren Mougey, willing to say 1 year after the fact, hey, man, we just drafted this guy. Everyone told us it was a dumb pick. Everyone was right. We were wrong. That would be the best thing to do. Admit your mistake, cut your losses, move on. But I don't see it happening. For me personally, I would look at a guy like Malik McClain, who has looked very good on specials. He's 6'4" and catches the ball, unlike Smith. I might keep McClain over Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick has been a productive guy, but he's had many injuries. He's obviously older than McClain. McClain, younger, developmental guy who looks like he can be a demon on specials. And he's got the size. He's got good enough hands, better hands than Smith. I think you can make a case for McClain over either of those two, but I don't know that it'll happen. If they end up keeping Arian Smith around just to be a gunner, just to say, look, he was worth that draft pick and try to save face a little, I'm not going to kill them for it. GMs do that. Every GM you've ever liked, every GM you've ever hated, they do stuff like that. They may keep guys around a year or two longer just to, in hopes of the guy developing. And they can say, look, we this was a hit. And B, so it doesn't look as bad. Yeah, we took that guy, hung around for a few years, but things didn't work out. That, sounds better or looks better on paper than saying we drafted that guy, everybody laughed at us, and we cut him before the start of the next season. So those are the 6 I'm going with. Not that I would go with, but who I think the Jets are going to go with. Garrett, A.D. Mitchell, Omar Cooper, Isaiah Williams, Tim Patrick, Arian Smith. A.D. Mitchell, look, I've been on that bandwagon really since last year when watching him get open. I kept saying, like, this guy gets open. He's not the problem. Go to YouTube. I've talked about it before. We put the video up. A.D. Mitchell, every target as a Jet from Jet Nation. It's on YouTube. The guy gets open. And everybody hyper focuses on this first game as a Jet when he had 3 drops. And they act like he did that every week. He didn't. Didn't drop the ball in college. Didn't drop the ball when he had 3 drops on 52 targets after game 1. That's not a terrible ratio. That's 6 drops on 100 targets. Plenty of receivers in the league with 10 plus. And this is a guy with game-breaking speed. So I'm glad A.D. Mitchell's coming along. Those are my 6 receivers. At tight end, should be no surprises here. I'm keeping all 4. Mason Taylor, Kenyon Sadiq, Jeremy Ruckert, Jelani Woods. Jelani Woods is a great story. Injuries, appeared to derail his career after a rookie season where he was productive, got in the end zone a few times, looked like a legitimate red zone threat at 6'7", and then kind of faded because of injuries. Everyone forgot about him. The Jets picked him up last year. I was curious. I was like, why did they pick this guy up? And he's healthy, and they won't play him. Their offense stinks, and they won't play him, and they didn't. And then Frank Reich came aboard, and I did that article saying, hey, these guys have a connection. Reich drafted Woods, and the Jets have kept Woods around all this time. Maybe Reich believes in him. Is this going to help this guy win a roster spot? And I believe he has. I think Jelani Woods has won himself a roster spot. I would hate to see it. But I think they will carry 4. You're not desperate to carry 3 tight ends nowadays. I think they keep all 4. But honestly, if one were to go, I think it'd be Ruckert. I'm not saying I want him to go. I want him to have a chance to keep developing. Tight ends take longer than most positions. It's often not till year 3 or 4. Yes, you get elite guys. Not everybody is going to be Brock Bowers. Not everybody is going to be, Warren, the Penn State kid, Tyler Warren, who's landed with the Colts. Not everyone's going to be that guy. Most tight ends take a few years. Ruckert showed a little bit of growth last year, so I hope he's around. But if the Jets decide they're only keeping 3, I think Ruckert might be the odd man out. I hope they keep all 4. That's what I'm hoping for. On the offensive line, no real surprises. Olu Fashanu at your left tackle, Dylan Parham at left guard, Myers at center, Tippmann at right guard, Membu at right tackle. And then your backups, Okorafor and Mitchell, both experienced backups. Okorafor, far more experience, obviously. Started for several years for the Steelers. And then on the interior, Xavier Newman, who can be a center/guard, and Anes Cooper, who I think what we saw from him in week 2 is more indicative of what you'll get from him in live action. I think what we've seen from him in very limited sample size is that, yeah, if you line somebody up right in front of him and you want him to go head-to-head and run somebody over or hold somebody off, I think he can do that. But once you get into stunts, twists, angles, blitzes, delays, he really, really struggled in week 2. And I think he'll get a ton of action this weekend against the Giants. But those are the 9 on the offensive line. Defensive line. This one was pretty tough. Harrison Phillips, Tavondre Sweat, David Onyemata, David Bailey, Will McDonald, Juwan Briggs, Kingsley Enagbare, Joseph Asai, Darrell Jackson. Obviously a talented group. I think that there's, there are going to be questions like people say, oh, does Nate Lynn make it after the game he had his 2 sacks and the pressure? Look, I don't know. Now look, if he gets another sack or 2 against the Giants, but again, you have to remember preseason week 3 is the new preseason week 4 when it's guys who probably aren't making the roster playing against other guys who probably aren't making their rosters. So this is another big example of backups versus backups. And I talked to Scott Mason of Play Like a Jet about this the other day. I believe it was Daniel Jeremiah. He was making a point about performance and numbers in preseason and saying when he was with the Ravens, we had a guy who went out and had 3 sacks in a preseason game. We cut him the next day. For those of you who remember, I should have looked it up in the meantime since we've had the conversation. I forget his name. There was a defensive tackle who never played a regular season game with the Jets, but had a strong preseason. This is during the Rex Ryan years. I want to say like Pacific Islander type name. I forget the player's name. And in the final preseason game, he'd had a good camp. And then in the final preseason game as a DT, he went out and he had 3 sacks. And like, wow, did this guy just win himself a roster spot? No, he didn't. He was cut. They said, look, thanks for the preseason production. That's not what we're looking for. And they let him go. So Nate Lynn, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen to him. I'm saying it does a strong performance against the Giants backups in preseason game 3. Can he do enough to win a roster spot? I suppose he could. If he just goes out and is an absolute monster and shows off the traits you're looking for, then maybe he makes the roster. But for me right now, I'm not saying he won't make it. I'm saying I didn't have him making it because I can't put a guy on a roster after 3 practices and 1 game or 4 practice, whatever it was, 4 days before the game. So one of those practices is a walkthrough. So he probably had at most 2 practices and 1 game. I'm not putting a guy on the roster after that. I think that's a little tough. But again, it's not to say he won't. If he goes out, and I did. I went back after that game. I watched him at William and Mary. Great motor, catching guys, catching running backs 20 yards downfield. Good spin move, which we also saw in the game. So I'm like, all right, this guy's got some. He's got some traits. He's got the motor. He's got the hustle. He's got some moves. So wouldn't be shocked if he made it. I don't want to be that guy who's like, oh, this dude had a good 20 snaps, so I'm putting him on the roster. And again, you've got Osai, you've got Enagbare who you just brought in. They're not going anywhere. So it's going to be tough. But listen, maybe you keep 10. I have them keeping 9 linemen. I have 1 or 2 spots here where I might be keeping 1 or more than the Jets will at a given position, and maybe they make a move there. And that one of those being linebacker. And then when I said that I did this, and then I did this exercise, and then I went back and looked through it, who I had where, it's linebacker where I was like, yeah, I'm probably wrong here. This is me being a little bit biased because I liked the preseason that Jaden Keller had. And when I said I'm probably worrying about things that the Jets aren't worrying about, this is the position I was talking about. I'm doing the linebacker list, and I'm like, well, Demario Davis he's 37. Can he keep going at that level? Can he stay healthy? That's a lot to ask. Jamien Sherwood didn't have the best year last year. Could they be looking to bump him off? But probably not. I'm probably overthinking it. And the Jets are probably going to be absolutely content to go with 4 linebackers. I'm going to stick with 5 because that's what I put out there. But if you told me to redo this now, I would change it already. But I went with Demario Davis, Jamien Sherwood, Michael Walker, Marcelino McCrary Ball, Jaden Keller. But then you have Maui Noah, another guy they drafted last year who looked okay at times, but not great. But I just feel like Michael Walker, the way he played at the end of last season was better than Maui Noah did. And the way McCrary Ball has played this preseason has been off the charts. So I think I would, if they keep Maui Noah over either of those 2, I'd be surprised. I think I don't think I would do that, but again, they're going to have their conversations internally. And look, they're the NFL coaches, position coaches, head coach. They've played. They know this game better than I do. I'm not here to pretend that I'm here to tell the Jets what they need to be doing. So maybe that's the direction they go. But yeah, I think I was overthinking it on the linebacker. I think they carry 4. Someone commented, I forget if it was in the forums of Jet Nation or on Twitter. I think it may have been our friend Jimmy actually, who said no way they cut Maui Noah. And maybe you're right, Jimmy. I totally open to the fact that they may keep the guy, but and I did say in the notes, each position group has a little paragraph, a little commentary. And I said, in the end, the Jets may opt to go with Kiko Maui Noah to avoid cutting a player who was just drafted last year. Same as Arian Smith. So they may keep him around. Next up is corner. Dude, this corner group. I'm not saying it's like Cromartie, Sauce, Revis. You know, it's not Sauce and Reed, DJ Reed, that they were a great tandem. It's not Revis and Cromartie. I'm not saying that. Even let's show a little love. Aaron Glenn and Marcus Coleman. They were a great duo. I'm not saying the Jets have elite corners just lined up. I'm just saying they have a lot of guys who showed that they belong in the NFL. And you're not carrying 9 corners. You may not carry 7, but that's what I've got. I like the corners a lot. I like them a ton. Brandon Stevens, Azarie Thomas, D'Angelo Pons, Nashawn Wright, Quantez Stiggers, Jarvis Brownlee, Jordan Clark. I thought Trey Brown was fantastic. I want him to make it. The only reason I went Trey Brown over Jordan Clark is just a gut feeling. I think the way the Jets kept Clark around last year looked like, they used him in a couple of different spots. They moved him around. I think they like him. I would have zero problem if they went with Trey Brown over Jordan Clark. None whatsoever. Again, this is one of those position groups where I make the list and go, if somebody says, Glenn, you're a moron, there's no way they're keeping this guy, and instead they're keeping these 2. Okay. I'm not like these aren't hills I die on if people make valid arguments. Now, look, if you want to come to me and say they're going to keep Mougey Bamba over Brandon Stevens, we're going to have a conversation. Or we might not. I might just ignore you. But I think you get what I'm saying here. They have a bunch of guys who look like they can be, at the very least, decent quality NFL corners. But as I said, you can't keep all of them. I think Mougey Bamba, he had that great performance, then came back. He's had the knee. He hasn't practiced since. I think he goes to IR. Short-term IR. You can put 2 guys on short-term IR. I think it's going to be Mougey Bamba and a guy out of the next position group, out of the safety group, VJ Payne. Because I think they like Payne a lot. But I think they've seen enough. Belton's had a really good camp. Cisco's been good. Malachi Moore, another recent pick, who's not been great. But I don't think they're in a position where they're going to cut him right now. So I think VJ Payne is the guy who goes to short-term IR with Mougey Bamba. Samuel Womack had the pick the other day. Shout out Cisco and Womack. Jets got a couple interceptions. Who'd have thunk it? Preseason, yes. But still nice to see. And I think they're going to get a decent number of picks this year. They're not going to lead the NFL, but I don't think it's going to be a 5 or 6 pick type of season. I think we'll see double-digit interceptions for the Jets this year, which will be nice. Where do I come up with that? Look, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Just the experience in the secondary, directing traffic, seeing what he sees, getting guys in position. I think Cisco, he's got to bounce back, man. He's too good of a player to play the way he did last year. Always been a guy who can get to the ball. Safeties. Minkah, Belton, Cisco, Malachi Moore, VJ Payne. Again, to short-term IR. You can short-term IR 2 guys. And once the season starts, you can put more, but you got to pass guys through waivers first. You can't just stash like 16 dudes on short-term IR. And then the specialists. Listen, I put Jason Sanders there, and an hour later, the Jets cut Cade York, but I don't know that Sanders is the guy either. Let's see. And Year says on here, I know off topic, but I don't trust Sanders as our kicker. Well, it's on topic now, Year, because we're up to specialists. And here's the thing. I don't love the idea of Sanders. If it's between Sanders and York, I prefer Sanders. If they go out and get another kicker that shakes loose, I'm fine with that. If they go look at who the top kickers in the UFL were and bring them in for workouts, I'm fine with that. I just don't. I mean, they need to find a kicker who's good for more than a year or two. This has been ridiculous. The Jets are. It feels like the Jets are the only team in the league who just, for some reason, can't find. Like it's taking them 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Would I bring in Jake Moody? Did Jake Moody not sign with somebody? I thought he signed. Look that up real quick. I thought I saw that he signed somewhere. But if he hasn't signed somewhere, bring him in to work out too, and let Chris Banjo take a look and see if he wants to keep him. Yeah, but I don't know that Sanders stays. Austin McNamara, not Cade, by the way. If you saw the article when it was originally published, I was literally on the last couple lines typing it out, about to run out the door and do some stuff with the family, and I went McNamara, and my brain went Cade, who played in the NFL like a million years ago, and I put Cade McNamara. Realized it this morning and made the switch. But yeah, so Austin McNamara and Thomas Hennessy is your long snapper. So I put Sanders. Again, before he was cut. Yeah, Washington cut Moody last week, says here. But did he sign? I thought he signed somewhere. I'm going to have to Google this now. Let's see. No, okay, yeah, bring him in. There was another kicker somewhere who got let go. I think, did the Raiders sign a kicker a few days ago who was let go? Because it was somebody who I was thinking, man, the Jets should have brought that guy in. And it wasn't, I didn't think it was Moody, but I wasn't 100% sure. But absolutely, at this point, bring everybody in who's available. But at the same time, again, as I've said, I think this team is going to keep games closer this year, but I don't see them losing a bunch of games by 1 point, 2 points, where a field goal kicker could have swung it. That's it. Carlson from the Raiders signed somewhere. I knew I had Raiders and kicker in my head, but I forgot who it was. Okay, so yeah, if Moody's out there, absolutely bring him in. And there's, like I said, look at the UFL. There's got to be a couple of guys who were at least worth bringing in for a look. And by the way, how long before the league starts to narrow the goalposts? Harrison Butker, a 70-yarder the other day. And I mean, that was inevitable. As more guys are hitting from 64, 65, 66, and even if you say, well, Glenn, that's only the truly elite kickers. That's only a couple of guys. Okay, so if the regular, or if the elite kickers are going to be consistently good from mid-60s, that means the not as good kickers are still going to be good from high 50s. And in a few years, they'll be good from 60, and the top guys will be good from 70, 71. The league doesn't want games decided on a fair or not a fair catch, but like a ball that doesn't land in the landing zone. Starting to drive, already near midfield. You need 10 yards and the game's over. You're down by 1. You're pinned on your side of the field. All you need is a 15-yard completion, and your kicker's going to come out and bang it through from 73. Fans aren't going to. That's going to cheapen the game. So I think you can't. You kick from where you kick. The distance is what it is. You're going to have to narrow the goalposts, even if it's by 6 inches on either side. Something. And kickers will complain. Kickers complain when they move extra points back. They still don't miss. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy. Like, I couldn't hit a field goal. Maybe if you put it on the crossbar and I just had to kick it over, I might. But when you as a group, as a collective group, have become so good at something that it's good 97% of the time, you're kind of at that point when it doesn't happen, it's total fluke. And it's like, oh, well, you lost on a fluke. You didn't, you can't, if baseball players came up with a way to start hitting 860, Major League Baseball would make some changes and be like, Jesus, you got to, There has to be some question as to whether or not this is going to be successful. So, I mean, look, congrats to Buskers. Preseason or not, 70-yard kick is insane. But I think the league at some point is going to have to do something. Or maybe get rid of the specialized kicker balls where they inflate it to 10,000 pounds per square inch and give it an extra 15, 20 yards when you get into it. Hobo says maximum kick distance, ? No field goals past midfield. But how do you do that, though? I mean, I understand what you're saying, Hobo. But if you need points and you're like, look, my kicker is good enough to hit from there. You're just going to say, no, you're not allowed to? I mean, I guess you could, but I don't love that either. If you have a guy who's good enough to hit from the distance, under the current rules, then he should be allowed to. But if you narrow the goalposts, he's a little bit less likely to make it. So now a coach doesn't attempt a 70-yarder. Yeah, but I would rather make it so that it's a harder decision for the coach to go for it. I prefer that to the league saying you're not allowed to do that. Mike says it perplexes me as to why kickers aren't valued more, and Mougey completely dropped the ball by not re-signing Folk. I get you there, Mike, but I'm going to go out on a limb, and I don't think it's much of a limb. If you're Nick, do you think Nick Folk wanted to be here? I mean, you're not going to make him the highest paid kicker in the NFL. Nick Folk's an older guy, a much older guy. He's got a couple of years left. He probably wants to at least be competitive. And the Jets are so bad. I have no doubt. I mean, let's be honest here, Mike. I mean, I'm not in the room. I don't pretend to be. But is there really a world where the Jets didn't make Folk an offer? They had to have made him an offer. But then he leaves. I think he just wanted a chance to win. Or a chance to not be 4-13. But, I've had this disagreement once or twice with our good friend Dom C. Dom says you never use a draft pick on a kicker. And I'm like, for the number of sixth rounders that turn out to be nothing, you wouldn't use that to get yourself a 10-year answer at kicker? Rather a player who's got a 15% chance to maybe be a backup versus a guy who has a chance to win you multiple games for a decade? That's a sixth rounder well spent, if you ask me, if you get the right guy. Year says they lowballed him. That's the report. I honestly didn't see any reports on what was offered. If they did, that's a huge boneheaded move. And the Falcons are 4-13. Is that where he signed? I don't even remember where he signed. But the Falcons, yeah, I guess you can't really defend that quarterback situation. Penix injured. That's what he does. He gets injured. Tua looks not good at all. Who knows? I mean, they have so much talent there. They have so much talent. But let's see. The Jets only offered I think the Jets offered only one Falcons. Oh, so it was Years, you think, Year? Well, again, that's another part of it. Nick Folk was out of the league for a little while. He knows what it's like to be unemployed and not have a check coming in. So the Jets, they should have gone like a 1 year offer with an option. But either way, it's water under the bridge. I don't think they just let him walk. I think they made an offer. If they did lowball him or if they did refuse to go 2 years, that would be a shame. And if you're Folk too, I would think most kickers like the idea of kicking in a dome. I mean, kicking in a dome takes away so many of the elements that can impact you in game. And Folk is already the most accurate kicker in the league. If he can get to a point where he doesn't have to worry about wind or rain or anything like that, he can be even better. Real quick, anything from around the league? I'm going to start commenting on, I'm not going to do like an hour, but just a few minutes scrolling through NFL teams and rosters and news and thoughts. Let's see. The Browns. Wow. I always say as a Jets fan, thank God for the Browns. And more times than not, every now and then the Browns are better than the Jets, but this ain't one of those times. And I love Todd Monken. I think, man, imagine you're Todd Monk and you waited all those years for an opportunity, and this is what you inherit. A predator quarterback who isn't playing well at all, is claiming the fans only dislike him because of his predatory situation and nothing to do with his play on the field. I mean, my goodness. Bless you, Todd Monken. The Colts, man, just it feels like they got so many injuries there. That's the team we got to be watching, folks. Colts, Packers, and Cowboys this year, right? Got those ones. Of course, it's the Jets have their own one. They've got the Colts one, and they've got whichever one is higher between the Cowboys and Packers. So we got to hope one of those teams has some serious hiccups this year and end up losing a ton of games. The Titans, week 1. This is a big game, folks. Robert Saleh, obviously a huge failure with the Jets. He's already doing the all gas, no break thing in Tennessee, which is wild to me. I would have thought he would have come up with something different. But let's be honest, that has nothing to do with what happens on the field on Sundays. But the Titans preseason, they're looking terrible. But you also shouldn't put too much stock in that. I tweeted about this the other day. For those of you who aren't old enough, the Jets in 1995, I believe it was 95, they won more games in the preseason than they won in the regular season. The Jets had the Hall of Fame game that year. And of course, that was back when you had 4 preseason games. So they had 5 preseason games. Jets went undefeated, 5-0 in the preseason, went 4-12 when the season started. Well, and finished. 5 preseason wins, 4 regular season wins, typical Jets stuff, embarrassing. So it's, getting excited about like individual players and guys who are developing, that's one thing. But as a team, like you don't know what teams are tinkering with, experimenting with, what they're doing that they wouldn't do in a real game situationally. So I don't want to get too excited. But the thing is, I'm not going to use the term must win for week 1 because that's kind of silly. But to me, if I'm going to say week 1 is a must win, it's almost like saying that's what keeps the Jets' playoff hopes alive. It's not a must win, but if they lose that game, then it's a clear indicator to Jets fans that, we are that same old Jets. That I hate the term, I'm tired of the term, but sometimes it feels like there's something to it. And it's when you do stuff like that. If you do something like that, you've made all these additions, you've upgraded a quarterback significantly, you've made a bunch of additions defensively. Tavondre Sweat is going to be a huge addition, literally and figuratively. And Egbare, Osai, Onyemata, Demario Davis, all these guys, Dean Belton, Fitzpatrick, these guys they have the ability to completely flip the script in terms of their ability to stop the run. They were terrible at it last year. If Aaron Glenn is as good as he says he is, and as good as a lot of us believed he was when he was hired as far as being a coordinator, this team should be able to absolutely shut down the run. That's a big part of the game. I know it's a passing league. I get that. But stopping the run still helps you a great deal. So if the Jets are able to do that, yes, they should be, they should be playing a lot of games this year that are a lot closer. But if you don't win week 1, it's just a statement that we went out, we made all these additions, we got a better quarterback, we moved the coach to DC where he's supposed to be great, and we're just kind of the same again. It'd be bad. It's not like, oh, they lost that week 1 game, now they're not getting that home playoff game. No, they'll win or they'll lose, and they'll miss the playoffs either way. But it's such a bad look if they go out and lose that game, even though it is on the road. And anything on Baker? I haven't heard. I guess there won't be anything on Baker with that contract. But I can't remember if I mentioned this. When the Jets played the Bucs to start the preseason, the broadcasters did say that the Bucs had made it clear that Baker would be hit with the franchise tag if a long-term deal isn't reached. See, that's what I thought originally. And then I was talking to a few friends, and they sent the link, and they were like, hey, here's a thing that Baker has in his contract that if he gets hit with the tag, there's like a $50 million hit on top of that. He's going to have an $80 million cap hit. So then I was like, oh, maybe they won't. Do they want an $80 million cap hit? But apparently, according to the broadcast anyway, they're fine with an $80 million cap hit and Baker will not be going anywhere. Jed York. Touch on that. Well, maybe not the discuss that. That's it. That's wild, man. All the money in the world, and this is what you're doing. Man, these needs and urges. You're a billionaire. Thought right away, Hugh Grant, right? Multimillionaire, Divine Brown on a side street somewhere. Now here's Jed York, a billionaire in a trailer park. What the hell are we doing? What are you doing, fellas? Help me understand. I don't get it. I don't get it. He does. He pays for it, but he gets it. That'll wrap this one up, Jets fans. Have a good one.